What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Lone Ducks Gun Dog Chronicles. We're looking forward to this episode. We've got Todd Ezi from Rixey Outdoors. Todd, welcome to the show, man. I'm super excited to have you on and talk everything dogs and ducks, man.
You
Thanks for
bet.
joining
You were
us.
close. It's Ezi. So, hey, that's one that's tough. So, yeah,
Oh, man,
Ezi. It's an Italian name, and you never know how those are going to go. So,
I love it. And it's got a little southern twang to it, so it messes with me as a Yankee. Dude, that's
I hear
great,
you.
man. Dude, thank you so much for joining us. We got to meet you at the Shin Film Fest. You had your dog stand set up, and I'd seen you on social media, but we've never crossed paths. So introduced ourselves, got to chat for a few minutes, and I'm happy to have you on the show to talk dogs, ducks, and the gear that you provide our industry, which I think is extremely innovative and cool. So
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here.
yeah, man, do me a favor. Tell everybody a little bit about your backstory.
Yeah, my name's Todd Ezi, and I'm born and raised here in Central Arkansas. And man, I started hunting. I had a friend of my dad's. He was a coach. My dad was a coach, and one of his coaching buddies went hunting. And I was the kid who always wanted a pellet gun. My dad didn't hunt. My mom didn't hunt. When I got a pellet gun, I was probably, I don't know, 10 or 11 years old. I go
Cool.
to the little wood lot across the road, and I'd shoot anything I could. And the only rule was if you shoot it and bring it home, you gotta eat it.
Hmm.
And got a lot of crazy looks from my parents cooking squirrels and rabbits and things like that. But
Okay.
um, anyway, I kind of got started that way. I loved hunting and fishing shows. I always wanted to be part of the outdoors,
Mhm.
be able to hunt and fish, and did every chance I got, but I just didn't have family to do that. So I had a couple family friends that took me hunting. And like I said, my dad's coaching buddy invited us to go duck hunting. I was probably 13 or 14 years old. Um, and he had a dog, a golden retriever. He'd run in some trials,
Cool.
and his name was Coach. And man, Coach was a good dog. And I just remember going hunting with them. And, like I said, my dad didn't do it. So we didn't have gear. We had
Right.
rubber waders we bought at Walmart. Um, you know, hand me down jackets. And um, it was it was a pretty rough start. Um, luckily, Coach Glancy, who was my dad's friend, he had a couple of hookups on some fields and a little slough we could go hunt. And that's how we started, and shot very few ducks, but loved it from the start. It was just
Very cool.
love at first experience. And so I guess that would have been 1993, 94.
Mhm.
And we didn't shoot a lot of ducks when I was getting started. It was a lot of time out there and
Mhm.
hunting a rice field here, a slough there, and be in places where farmers would be like, "Yeah, y'all can go hunt over there." They obviously were not their probably best spots, but
Sure.
it didn't bother me. I was just glad to be out there. Um, and so, I just kinda continued that. And as I got a little bit older, my dad kinda went back away from hunting as I kinda branched out on my own. And
Mhm.
in through college, I met some friends that I still hunt with today. And um, kinda continued to build my love and started hunting a lot of public land there, in the late '90s. And
Where'd you go to college?
I went to college at Arkansas Tech.
Okay.
So we had several really good friends there. And the hunting there is not great, but we hunted the river a lot. And then when I would come home to Central Arkansas over Christmas, we hunt public land around here. And
Mhm.
um, got to start going to Biomeda and places like that, and just kind of learning. Like I said, I didn't have anybody really teach me the public land game, so going with friends and figuring things out on my own.
Yeah.
Um,
Running and gunning.
and yeah, running and gunning, and chasing ducks, and trying to figure out how to scout, and just learning it from scratch. And I got a dog. I guess I was about 15 or 16. My dad bought me a yellow lab. I guess it was 95, so I was 15. Um, so I got this yellow lab and named him Pete. And
Nice.
Man, old Pete, he was a fire breather. I mean, he was an awesome dog, and he came from a hunting bloodline, some friends of ours,
Mhm.
and, um, that dog, he was so gung ho to go. He was a whiner when he was in the blind or wherever we were. He'd sit there and whine, and it just drove me crazy.
Sure.
So we got to where uh, we would drop him off behind the truck about a mile down the road and let him run behind the truck, burn a little energy so he wasn't quite so amped up when we got out there. Um, but anyway, so I had Pete, that was my first dog, and
Mhm.
had him, well, I guess he was about 12 when he died,
Mhm.
um, and then ended up with a Boykin after that. That was kind of a I wanted a hunting dog, my wife wanted a house dog, so
Yeah.
that was kind of the middle. So, ended up with a Boykin, and she was not out of a hunting bloodline, and she was a solid, steady dog, but she didn't have the fire. She didn't want it as bad as she needed to. So, she died, and then we got our next Boykin out of a hunting bloodline, and she's 8 now. And then I've got a lab that's 4. So I've
Cool.
just, I guess, steadily progressed hunting wise
Yeah.
as a guy who started from nothing. So I always see guys out there or kids, and that's always something I want to do, is try to help people that kind of have that same background as me, that want to go and don't have the people to take them.
Yeah.
So when I see people like that out making mistakes on public land and doing things wrong, I want to try to show them the right way to do it, rather than get mad at them. But um, that's kind of my background, and
Yeah.
in my day job, I played baseball all the way through college, and ended up being a coach, and ended up transitioning to a basketball coach. So I'm a head basketball coach at a high school in Little Rock, and I've
Cool.
been I was my dad's assistant for about 8 years, and I've been the head coach for about 12. So,
Good for you.
um, yeah, needless to say, December, January are busy months for me. So,
Yeah, exactly. Basketball season and duck
yeah,
season coincide.
yeah, it's a tough time, tough swing around my house. Now that my kids are grown, it's a little bit easier, but there was a lot of late Friday nights, early Saturday mornings. So,
Sure. I believe it. You and I have a similar story. I mean, in terms of like my dad hunted when he was young, but then as we grew up, he didn't anymore. And so I had to scrape and learn and screw up and have terrible gear. And, Christmas was coming. So you'd get a little bit more new gear and try and outfit yourself. And yeah, that's really cool, man. I appreciate that come up story of nobody showed you the way. You had to figure it out.
yeah, and that was before YouTube, obviously. So
Yeah.
you know how it was. You're watching TV shows, which duck hunting TV shows are few and far between.
Yeah.
So picking up anything and everything you could,
Yeah.
um, all the time. But I don't know. I feel like in a way that made me appreciate it more than a kid who is just um,
Yeah.
given everything, given the opportunities, and I never took it for granted. And still to this day, I mean, anytime I get to go hunting, I'm just super appreciative to be out there and enjoy it.
That's really cool. So being from the duck capital of the world, Arkansas, do you travel other places? Have you been able to go other places to duck hunt?
I've been out of state one time. I went down with the guy that started Recoil
Yeah.
dog vests,
Yep.
Austin Coyle. I went down and duck hunted with him teal season last year in Louisiana.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, I've never really traveled. Most of my traveling, we do a lot of traveling, is with my wife and stuff during the summer, and um, I just I've always wanted to go. I've had a couple invites to go to Canada, and that's on my bucket list.
Yeah.
Definitely something I want to cross off, but also a tough swing for a basketball coach to take off a week in October to go duck hunting. So it's
I get it.
something I want to do, just hadn't gotten that opportunity yet.
I got to go to Saskatchewan last year for the first time, but It's not fair. It is not fair to be a duck or a goose up there with people like us coming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I bet.
something to see, something to see. So bucket list for sure, and I would recommend it to anybody. And it is doable too. Like it's not that bad of a flight, or it is a bucket list. I couldn't do it every year, but it was manageable, and the experience was incredible. Sunrise and sunsets can't be beat, and the volume of birds you see is they look like mosquitoes taking over the earth.
Yeah, it's so crazy too that dry field hunting is
Yeah.
just something that in Arkansas we've shot some of our goose spread before, but very rarely do you see ducks feeding in dry fields, and I'd really love to take a dog up there and
Yeah.
get to work a dog in that dry field and some of those long retrieves and watch them go. So
Yeah.
I think
Let's talk about the 2 dogs you got now. So you said you had a Boykin that's like 8 and then a Lab that's 4. Tell me about them.
yeah. So my Boykin is 8. We bought that's Oakley, and bought her and self trained her. Made a lot of mistakes training her. Just little things that as a dog guy who's gotten more into that drive me crazy now, like delivery to hand, and
Mhm.
um, you know, didn't force fetch with her. Um, and being a Boykin, she's got a mind of her own. Um,
You don't say.
as as anybody who has dealt with Boykins knows, but she's a fiery dog. I mean,
Cool.
she's picked up a lot of ducks in 8 seasons, so um, she really is a good dog. I try to still take her quite a bit, but Harley is my lab.
Mhm.
I actually got her out of a kennel in South Dakota, flying S retrievers,
Mhm.
and we were looking for a lab, and uh, the business I have having dog stands, people would see my Boykin on my dog stand. You can see uh, she's about 35 pounds, and she'd be sitting on there, and everybody would comment, well, what about a lab? Well, the lab fit. So
Yeah.
my my pitch to my wife is we got to get a lab.
That's right. Yeah, it's good for business.
And so we got Harley. It just so happened the couple that was running the kennel, the husband was running the Grand down in Natchez, and
Mhm.
so he was coming through Arkansas way about the time she was 8 weeks, and picked her up. And man, from the start, you could tell she had it. Um, just perfect demeanor for what I need, which is, when she's inside, she's in her kennel most of the time, but she'll come lay by the couch and she's chill. But at, at 3 o'clock, if I walk in there with my hunting stuff on, dude, she is up and out the door and runs to the back of the truck, jumps in the kennel like, she knows exactly what to do. Um,
That's
but she's had it since she was little, and I got smart and sent her to a friend of mine, Jeremy Brown,
Mhm.
who is up in Northeast Arkansas, and um, I guess she went at probably about 3 months old and stayed a few months, and every year has gone back a month or two
Very
to
cool.
kind of touch up. And she's a fast learner, so she got through a lot of his program quickly. And she's not a trial dog, but she's good. She can run blinds and take casts, and um,
That's awesome.
has been awesome to watch. And she's fast, and I love that in a dog.
Yeah,
Just fun to watch. So those are my 2, and,
that's really
w
cool.
we have some cocklebur holes in Arkansas. If there's cockleburs anywhere around, the Boykin does not go. I made that mistake a couple
Describe to
times, and
the fellow Yankees. I know what a cocklebur is, but describe to a
yeah,
Yankee what a
yeah,
cocklebur is.
a cocklebur is and people are like, "Oh, you got burrs, we got burrs up here." A cocklebur is a ball that's about that big around, that is spikes, and each spike is probably a quarter of an inch long. There's probably 100 of them, and if you squeeze it, your fingers are bleeding.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know if you've seen this on TikTok. I posted a video. It's got about 4 million views of my Boykin, and her ears are standing up straight. She looks like she's got a ghillie suit on, and it took about, I don't know, 2.5 hours of picking to get all those out of her.
Ugh.
And it. funny story about that. That I had somebody online posted. Well, if you got a boykin, just spray them down with olive oil before you go out in the field, and those birds will slip right out.
Mhm.
So I took a bottle of olive oil and coated her. Within 10 minutes, she had no less than 500 to 1,000 cockleburs matted up in her. So we hunted the whole day, and um, it was rough, and my wife was not happy when I got home. So
No, I bet not. No, I bet not. Yeah, those things are terrible,
terrible.
terrible. So the Labrador gets the call when the cocklebur hole is being
If
shot
I'm
at.
going anywhere with cockleburs, which can be the river and some of the WMAs we've got,
Mhm.
the boykin stays at home. So
Gotcha.
flooded timber, she can go. Other than that, it's tough.
Yeah, I think that the Boykins, they are like a magnet to those things, and no matter what you do, I've got setters, and when we go grouse hunting, like we don't have the cockleburs, but you'll spend an hour pulling little birds out, and it is I wouldn't want to do it. Let's put it that way.
No, it's
And I
not
found
something. If you
nothing.
can avoid it,
Yeah, I
avoid it.
found nothing. They talk about the horse hairspray stuff. No, nothing touches it. They're screwed. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about Arkansas hunting this season. How has your season been going? Last year a lot of people were talking about the short stopping ducks, and I feel like a lot of people were complaining on the internet about it. What's it been like this year for you?
Man, eh, it started off with a bang. We shot 150 something the first split, which we usually hunt with small groups. That included a couple private land hunts, but we were shooting a lot of ducks, and it was solid. Um, and then I think my first 6 hunts after the first split, we shot 6 or 7 ducks, like total. So striking out, just and I think that there's a couple things to play. Talk about shortstop, and I think it's the weather. I think when
Mhm.
the weather gets right at the right time of year, we get the push of ducks. And honestly, I thought this year we got the right weather, but the problem is it's as dry as I've ever seen it.
Mhm.
And I think there's probably 3 WMAs in the state that have water, and none of the federal ground has water. And so, a couple of problems with that is number one, there's nowhere for the ducks to rest, but also the hunters have congregated to those areas for good reason. Can't blame them. Um, but the hunter overcrowding in the places that do have water is insane. So there's just not the habitat we need to hold them here without the water. And it's pretty controversial whether or not the game and fish should flood the state timberlands, places um, that have GTRs, green tree reservoirs. And um, I'm sure I'll briefly say that the tree health is the concern of people, and for years they've left water on these WMAs for long periods of time, and biologists say that that's hurting the tree population. And I won't even get started into all the things with that, but that's the reason they're not flooding as much ground anymore. So you've got the loss of what used to be flooded, and
Mhm.
then now you've got, um, very little public land that is flooded. I don't know what the
Wow.
percentage is, but it's a very small percentage. And so the places that are flooded are getting hunted, and there's just not a lot of refuge for ducks. Now, I'll say if you've got a private land with a refuge, you're probably doing pretty good,
Mm.
because those ducks that want to be in Arkansas are here in those places. But overall, for a public land guy, um, I'm going to speak for a lot of people here, but I think it's been pretty poor this second and into the third split. And water controls a lot of that, and the rest is by weather.
Is it dry because you haven't had a lot of rain as well, or are they not flooding it on purpose whether you had rain or no rain?
Yeah, well, so there's a couple things at play there. So we haven't had much rain. It's been a very dry year, and everybody knows the Cache River, the White River. There's
Mhm.
several other rivers, especially in East Arkansas, that traditionally in the month of December into January will get out of their banks and flood hundreds of thousands of acres of bottomland. But those rivers are all at really low levels, so that's part of it. And then the game and fish doesn't artificially flood um, very much of their GTRs at this point. So for tree health, they're not artificially flooded, and the rivers and creeks are not flooding them, so there's no water. So those are kind of the issues. But yeah, it is extremely dry. So usually at this point in the year, whether they flooded or not, most of our GTRs are going to be full because of the rain, and we just haven't gotten that this year. So
Interesting. That's kind of too bad. And I would, like you had said, the places that did flood, everybody's going to them now, so they're getting banged up.
yeah, I mean, places that hold ducks, and that's a whole nother argument. How do you keep pressure off of these lands? But as well as every duck hunter out there, if ducks get pressure in a spot 2 days in a row, they're leaving.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter how good, how much food. If they're getting pressure, they're leaving, and every bit of flooded public land that is accessible is getting that pressure. So ducks are not sticking around, and like I said, it's been a pretty rough season for public land folks in Arkansas for sure.
Gotcha. So the private land folks, do they have their own pumping like wells, and they pump their own fields and flooded timber?
It all depends on your your level of club that you have, but the big clubs do. Most of them have a reservoir that they use for um, either flooding or as a rest area, and then they'll either well pump or pump out of the reservoir to flood their fields or their timber. So those kind of places all have water.
Hmm.
With that being said, though, there's still the number of ducks that are generally trading between um, the langell, the cash, the white, the black. Like the ducks are usually all around, so it's pretty common. Even if you've got a club and you don't have ducks one day, that the next day they may show up because they're trading back and forth, and you're just not getting as much of that, in my opinion, this year as most years.
Interesting. A lot of the people on the old internets are talking about, like when I was talking about short stopping, the food that's staying available to them longer in the more northern states, and the water that's staying available to them in the more northern states, because we're not getting colder earlier, is part of the reason. Would you have anything that you would do you agree with that? What do you think have you seen over the last few years?
Man, that's a good question, and I don't know. I'm a science guy, and I like data, and um, I don't know. It's really hard to tell how much of that is ducks short stopping and how much of it is um, you know, short stopping because there's food and available water, or is it just because it's not getting cold?
Mhm.
Um, I mean, in my opinion, when it's gotten cold, the hunting has been really good here, um, especially when we get early cold fronts that push ducks down. Now that's much less common now. Um,
Mhm.
if all of that happened and all the stars aligned for a year, are we going to have as many ducks as we had 15 years ago? I think that some of them are going to hang around up north. I
Mhm.
think we're probably losing some to that. And, the duck population is down. So I think it's a combination of all those factors coming together. I think that there are a lot more private areas from Illinois all the way up. I mean, you can go further north than that, but from Illinois to Louisiana, there's a lot more private refuge now than there probably was um, years ago. But with that being said, there used to also be a lot of swells and fields over here and places that ducks would go. and now there's a lot more zero grade. So I think it's a good thing that all those, um, all those rest areas exist, because I think those ducks have to have a place to go. And I think the loss of natural habitat and places that ducks can go, um, has been countered a little bit by people feeding the ducks and, keeping places for them to have refuge.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's interesting. We're about to have one of the guys from Onyx on, but he had made a post, I want to say in Mississippi, about the agricultural changes that, as he was growing up, all these fields would have lowlands and residual grain from being poorly tilled and all that jazz. And now it's like absolute economical, perfectly graded, and there's no places for these ducks to get extra food, and there's a reason why for the farmer, and it makes sense, but for the ducks and the geese it hurts.
yeah, I mean, there's zero doubt if you drive through the Arkansas Delta right now that the number of zero grades, which for people that aren't familiar, zero grade field is just perfectly flat and generally a square. And so
Mhm.
you've got this square that the whole thing might flood, 3 or 4 inches deep. So, um, there's no natural vegetation. It's all crops, and it's maximizing the potential of the farmer, which, like you said, you can't blame the farmer for that.
Right.
Um, but also the combines being able to pick up and harvest a much higher percentage of the grain that's produced makes it, where there's less food for ducks. So, like I said, I think that's kind of good that that's offset by, um, people having rest areas, but it's definitely changed the game for hunters. Um,
Especially
one
public land hunters and not wealthy public land
Yeah,
hunters.
and one of the ways we used to hunt, and these were people we knew, but farmers being like, "Yeah, you can go hunt that field," and in the middle of that field, there'd be a little depression with a couple trees in it, and you could go hunt that, and the farmer would, it just inadvertently flooded. There'd be some smartweed and,
Mhm.
some other native grasses around it, and the ducks loved it, and, it wasn't a big piece, and it might flood, couple times a year, but you could go out there and hunt ducks in it, and, there's not really spots like that anymore.
Yeah.
If they're there, it's generally by design that somebody wants them there, so it's not something that you or I could go ask a guy, "Hey, do you mind if I go hunt that?" Because it's probably leased out, and, um, so it's the landscape has definitely changed in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's one of the it's one of the things that changes with everything. Everything changes, right? So I'm sure like the old timer coach that took you hunting, there were a lot more opportunities for him when he was 15 and 25 to go hunt land, or like you just walked on that farmer's land. You knew him, you grew up with his kids, whatever, and everybody just let everybody do whatever. Now it's leased, it's hard to get permission, it's somebody's ruined it for somebody else, and or it's real big money now. Like some of these farmers can make bank at
Yeah,
leasing.
I look at the leases, and there's a million available leases every year in Arkansas, but
Mhm.
the reason I hunt public land is because if you pay a couple $1,000s to lease a field, you might get lucky and kill 50 ducks of it all off of it all year. And, if you're paying for a good lease, one that's proven where ducks want to be, it's astronomical.
Yeah.
And, so yeah, the days of being able to ask a farmer, "Hey, um, my sister went to school with you back in the day. You mind if we go over here and hunt this?" Like, that's
Yeah.
not happening anymore.
Yeah. He's saying some South Carolina guy and
Yeah.
his buddies pay big money.
Yeah, and you can't blame him for that. I mean, that's his
No.
livelihood, so
No, and you can't blame, like, on the other hand, you can't blame the people that financially made it and can afford to do those things. It's just a change in the evolution of hunting. Like, here in New York, we're starting to see it too, with people leasing up big swaths of cornfields that do flood, and, different wetlands, and, buying 150, 250 acres next to a refuge
is it for
and
duck
making
hunting or goose hunting or both?
yeah, both.
Yeah,
both. Yeah, it's just getting a little crazy, and it it makes the public land and the young person getting into the sport a little tougher.
for sure.
Part of the change that happens. We're getting old. um anyways, you talk about biometa. I've never gone to hunt it. It's got folklore behind it. Let's talk about a day in the life of a guy in a boat and a dog and going into that place to hunt ducks.
Yeah, it's a lot like other ones. It's just such a storied one because it's so old, and people have
Mhm.
hunted down there. That used to be called the Scatters, the Wabasika Scatters, um, and mm, Biomeda Creek runs into it. So it's now, um, I don't know how many thousands of acres. It's divided up into a couple of different areas,
Mhm.
and it's got a couple of different boat launches, and you can either launch and run a ditch and then um, walk in. There's a couple of places to do that, or you can just walk in without a boat, which is kind of the way that I've gotten to where I like to hunt.
Mhm.
If I'm hunting by meter, because I think that gives me the best chance to get away from crowds. Um, or there's a couple of sloughs that run through it that you can run and hunt. But there's several GTRs like that. But a hunt, if you're going to try to get to one of the holes that people know, you're gonna probably have to be there early. Launch, there's a couple of points where you line up, and at 4 a.m. you can take off. They, and the first guy out there's got his hole in mind. If
Mhm.
he's good at running an outboard, he's probably going to get that first hole that he wants. Um, and then everybody kind of filters in behind him.
Mhm.
Um, get out to the hole and set up and um, try to shine
What
your
is that
lights
even
and
like for a guy? I've never hunted flooded timber, not like this.
oh
Um,
man, I mean, the boat ride's fun. I love running the boat through the trees. And then you get out there and get set up, and um, it's really magical at daylight when the ducks are there, which they haven't. Um, Ducks have been very sporadic. There's a lot of green tree reservoirs where I could have taken you 15 years ago in January and said we may not shoot a lot of ducks today, but we're gonna see a lot, and we're gonna
cool.
work a lot of ducks. But when they're there, it's magical, and the sun starts coming up, and the ducks start dropping vertical through the trees. There's nothing like it. Um,
That's
you know,
really cool.
it makes me smile, and I've I don't claim to be the greatest hunter, but I've been really lucky to be on some hunts and watch groups of 100, 200 mallards land right on top of you through the trees, um, and there's nothing like it. So I like to shoot them in a field or wherever I can go and
Mhm.
shoot ducks, but man, when the flooded timber gets right, it's there's nothing like it.
That's really cool. Yeah, you watch all the shows, talking about hunting shows growing up, and even now with like the social media stuff, you're watching these guys lean against a tree, dog on a dog stand, and watching ducks just straight down plummet from the skies into the hole. Like, I would love to do it. It's a bucket list thing for me to do. But what I don't understand is if I was a New Yorker and I'm coming to public land hunting in Arkansas, like, how do you know that that is in essence a hole, right? Like, how did you know you got there? How did you know I arrived to the hole in
Yeah, I
this
mean,
little
there's
wooded, secluded area?
so it depends. Different WMAs can be different in
Okay.
Arkansas. There's some, um, for example, Biomeda is fairly protected. So they used to allow guides to kind of run Biomeda, and they would take clients and they would beat people to the hole every morning.
Mhm.
And so different client or different guides would have their hole, and they would keep that hole open. They would cut the underbrush and things like that. Um, I don't remember what year they kind of took that away, but since then, it's a lot less maintained. So if you go to one of the elite duck clubs in Arkansas, you're going to find several holes, and they've got a sign on the hole that says what hole it is. And
Mm,
um, the underbrush is cut out, the blowdowns are cut out and pushed out of the way, and it's a clear, wide open hole.
okay.
Um, in a place like Biomeda or anywhere on the Cache River, White River, now they're grown up, but there are holes, and anywhere from where a tree blew down, and there's a lot of those,
Mhm.
that's kind of created an opening in the canopy, um, to some of those old holes that are still existent, that are open. So
That's cool.
I think a lot of people, there's a lot of misconception that you have to be in a hole. Um, I hunt, and I've told people this. I hunt a lot of thick timber, and I mean, I've seen ducks pitch through the thickest timber you can imagine because they
Cool.
like to get in some thicker stuff.
Mhm.
Um, and later in the year, I think sometimes you can have more success being away from some of those big holes and in
Makes
some
sense.
thicker stuff. So,
Yeah.
um, scouting really is what is going to tell you where you want to be, and
Mhm.
um, if the ducks, there are holes where ducks just want to be, like year in and year out. If you're in this hole and there's ducks in the area, the ducks are going to want to be in this hole.
Mhm.
Um, but hunting small groups, if you've got 2 or 3 guys and you find a blowdown in an area where there's ducks and you set up correctly, and um, you call right, you can land ducks in any spot in any of those green tree reservoirs.
That's really
Like I
cool.
said, if there's ducks in the area, so it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be one of those big holes. So you can look on an Onyx and any of those WMAs, which Onyx is another thing that's changed the game.
Right.
I love it. I use it all the time. Um, but there are places. I think a Bio to View is one where if you've ever run that, um, before Onyx, there were probably 10 people that could run that thing. And now with Onyx, you can follow, set a track during the day and follow it back there at night. So um, I think that's really made it easier for people to learn areas,
Mhm.
and particularly people from out of town or whatever, to learn areas. Some people
Yeah.
say it's a bad thing. Some people say it's a good thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's got some of both.
Some of both. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I get it because again, I kind of mentioned earlier, I love to grouse hunt, and grouse in our area they're elusive, man. And if you find some, I don't want anybody else finding them, and I don't want that patch of woods getting beat up by everybody. And so I get it, and I kind of can't imagine having my hometown being the place that everyone across the country says they want to go to. You know,
Yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
mecca.
And being in Central Arkansas is really a good thing for me because I can go to Northeast Arkansas, I can go to East Arkansas, I can
Mhm.
go to Southeast Arkansas. You're talking about um, there's when the rivers are out, there are I I mean I have 10 different areas that I could possibly hunt there. So um, you got a lot of different
Mhm.
options to chase the ducks. So, but like I
Yeah.
said, somebody can get on Onyx and find that hole and go there the next morning without ever having stepped foot in there. So it's definitely changed um, the way people can access property.
Yeah. It's a pro and a con. It's a pro and a con. Um, let's talk a little bit about the company, man. How did you come up with this idea and get into the industry, and where it's taken you? It's a
Yeah,
great.
yeah. So I guess it was about 2018, 2019. I was hunting with my Boykin, and I was carrying a big dog stand, and I was walking in a little over a mile in probably thigh deep water. And, if you've ever walked through flooded timber, you've got blowdowns and snags, and it's not easy. I try to pack pretty light. I usually carry a
Mhm.
backpack, maybe a dozen decoys, sometimes no decoys. Um, and then if I've got my dog, I've got a dog stand. And I saw lots of problems with the stuff that was out there, from one being that dog stands are big and bulky, and another one that they don't hold up, and another one that there were times where we had a dog and we would see ducks work in a certain area and we wouldn't go hunt over there because there was nowhere to put the dog. The water was a little bit too deep, over a little over waist deep. Um, so all of those things were in my mind, and I was walking in one day, and I was actually in Biomeda, um, and I walked about a mile, a little over a mile, and I was just sitting there with my dog, and I was thinking about, my brain was working. I'm a was a geometry teacher for a long time, and
Mhm.
teach science and physics, and um, I don't know, my brain just started working, and I went home that day and built a prototype and showed it to a couple people, and they're like, "Dude, that is really cool. Like, I've never seen anything like that."
Yeah.
And from there, I had another friend who had a connection with an engineer, and met a couple of good friends that are engineers that kind of helped me get it from a welded prototype into a design. And obviously, during that time, I was wanting to keep everything top secret because I
Yeah.
never launched a product, and I was so worried somebody would steal it.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm going through the patent process and trying to get the product to production. And
Cool.
it took, I guess, about a little over a year to get the patent applications in and get a product that we wanted to sell. Um, and then came out with it. And for the people that haven't seen it, it's a collapsible dog stand. So it's small enough to be put in your boat box and clip to your backpack or whatever. But when you get it out there and hook it to a tree, it folds out and gives a pretty good platform for the dog to sit on.
Yeah.
Um, so once we did that, the second season, after using it for a year, I was like, I need to change that and that. So made a couple small changes to it, and it's been the same since. And um, it's been a pretty big success in the outdoor industry, and
Yeah.
people are like, "Oh, you must make $1 million off that." But I've kept it produced all here in the U.S. and
Good for you.
produced in house, so it's something that it's pretty costly to produce,
Right.
and they sell. We're direct to consumer only. We're not in any stores or anything like that, and um, they do have a pretty high price point for a dog stand. But I will say I've got lots of customers who bought them the first year and they're still running them. So
Yeah.
um, all made here in Arkansas, and it's a quality product and not something that's going to tear up on you.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of the first off, I didn't think it was overpriced. So that's my professional opinion is I thought it was very fair for what you would expect to pay for any other dog stand.
Sure.
And then to have it be as versatile as it is and collapsible as it is and pack in as easy as it is. I'm like, this is a no brainer. Why would you get anything else?
Yeah, and people comment on social media like, "There's no way I'd pay that much for a dog stand. I'll just use the bottom of a climber." And let me say that I've done that. Like I was that guy, and I'm still that guy in a lot of ways where I would rather build something myself than um, go out and buy products sometimes. But it is a unique thing, and
Mhm.
if you're a walk-in guy, especially, or a boat-in guy, the space that you save with it is, you know, it just makes a huge difference. So,
Mhm.
um, like I said, we try to keep the price as low as possible, but it's not cheap to manufacture anything, especially when you do it in the U.S. So,
That's right.
um, to all the people that are willing to pay a couple extra bucks to support that, we appreciate it, and it's definitely changed the way that I look at products now. When I see something that a small company has started or made in the U.S., like it really makes me appreciate that. So I know
Yeah.
there's a lot of guys like that out there, and it's something I appreciate for sure.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Let's talk a little bit more about the product itself. How do you find it functionally, and what are some of the key features that just make it what it is?
Yeah, so one of the cool things about it is obviously it's portable and I walk in, so I clip mine to my backpack 90% of the time when I'm walking in. Um, but a second thing, and I mentioned this, like being able to hunt a big tree or a small tree. I'd hunt several tree stands, um, but the way that we design the frame of it, it will connect to anything from um, you know 4 inches across, so about like this, a cypress knee. I've got a lot of people that use cypress knees, and I do sometimes on hunt oxbows.
Mhm,
So I put it on a cypress knee, or I've put it around cypress trees that were 20 feet around.
mhm.
So the ability to adapt to any situation that you're in. As a timber hunter, I prefer to be on a big tree, but sometimes I get to a spot and there's only little trees. Um, and even when I'm hunting, like a field line with dry ground, I would rather run my dog off a stand. Uh, Both of my dogs perform better off a stand. They're less likely to break. They're
Mhm.
steadier. Um, I just think they're better off that when they return, they know exactly where they're supposed to go. So I think the ability to hook to any size uh, tree is a big difference maker in that, and being able to hunt deep water. There was a lot of times where, like I said, I wanted to hunt some deeper water, but I couldn't. And we got in a place, and I filmed a little um, Instagram reel last year, and I was in belly button deep water where we had seen a bunch of ducks go in, and all there was buckbrush, so stuff like this. And I pulled 3 or 4 of those together and hooked my tree stand on there and ran the dog off it and had some success that I wouldn't have been able to do
That's
without it.
cool.
So I think
That's really cool.
that's a big thing. And weight, it's only 8 pounds, so it's lighter than just about anything else out there. And light and small makes a big difference being able to carry it. So
Very good. Tell me about the one. So you've got the stand itself. I saw that there's like a hitch attachment where you can put it to your truck, which as a dog trainer, I'm like, that's kind of cool. You know,
yeah,
guys who
yeah.
have
So
ranch hand brush brush guards, like you can hook that thing in. Is that a stand itself is a standalone product, or is it an attachment for the stand?
no, it's an attachment. So after the first year, we were running, and the stands were. It was essentially the same stand that it is now, but I started seeing a lot of ideas on different attachments that we could have for it, and so the next design we made it where the holes on the top and the bottom of the frame are round
Mhm.
and line up. So the hitch mount slides into the hitch of your Ranger, your pickup truck, or whatever. You can actually take one of the hitch receivers and bolt it into your stand or a tree in your hole or whatever you want to do, and then the hitch mount slides into that, and the stand itself slides on to basically 2 sets of pegs and just locks in with a little pin.
Cool.
So if you already own a stand, then all you got to do is buy the receiver hitch, and you can use that like you said for training.
Mhm.
Gives a lot of really good options for that. Um, I like to work my dog on a lot of remote place and stuff like that, so I can put the Ranger with a stand over here, and then run her to a pile, and then send her to her stand, which happens a lot in the timber, um, where you've got a duck behind you and a duck in front of you, and she retrieves one and send her back to the stand, and um, different situations like that. So it gives you a lot of good options for training. And then I don't know if you saw, we've also got the quick hook that sticks in the back of it, which is slides in the back, and it's got a little Y on the top that you can hang your backpack or hang your ducks on for a picture or whatever else. So
I did see
um,
that.
we've been coming out with some different attachments for it, so been pretty cool.
What about an attack? This is a idea if you haven't already thought of it, but I thought of us that what you just talked about, hanging your backpack to and whatnot, as a quick release for steadiness for the dog. So
We
some sort of
actually
something like that.
The frame of the stand has, holes in it, and we
Mhm.
actually make leather leads
Oh,
that are custom length where they hook through those holes in the stand, and they're about the length of that a dog would need to attach to the collar. So, I don't
perfect.
run I mean, um, I say this, my dogs don't break. My dog broke the other day, and as soon as you say that, your dog will break.
100%.
Um, but I don't usually run one, but I know a lot of guys that do,
Mhm.
and, so it makes for a good place to clip your dog and make sure they're not breaking
Yeah.
while you're hunting.
Yeah. I think it's imperative for most guys, especially in a dog's first season or as the season rolls on, the dog starts getting smart to it. It's not a bad idea to have it in your blind bag. Like pro tip, training tip, always have some sort of tether in your blind bag. So if it's starting to get a little frustrating, things are getting a little haywire with the dog, instead of yelling, screaming, and burning, clip them up, let them catch the end of that lead. They correct themselves, and you'll be better off in the long run. But
That's
yeah,
a
it's a no
that's a
brainer.
great point. I mean, m my dogs are so used to hunting off a stand, and we so rarely hunt off the ground
Hmm.
that when we do, that's when they're most likely to break, and that's
Hmm.
when Harley broke the other day. We were off the ground and had a group of teal came in, a lot of shooting, and I looked out there and she took off, and like I said, she generally never breaks, and
Right.
especially off a stand. I mean, I don't even worry about her, but, um, and that's the thing, like, once they've done it once, then they've gotten that reward unless you can catch them.
Yeah.
And then they're bringing a duck back and they broke, and you're like, if you wanna, stimulate them now, then they've got a duck in their mouth, and,
It's too
you
late.
you get a lot of problems with
Yeah.
that, so.
Day late, dollar short on that one for sure. But I thought, just seeing it in person and seeing the growth you've had. I mean, you said 2018, 2019, right?
Mhm.
I mean, 6 years, 7 years of developing a product and being in the outdoor industry. What was the biggest challenge you had to overcome breaking into the industry?
Everything. No, so, I mean, I'm a teacher. I've never done social media. I mean, I had a Facebook. I didn't really I wasn't into Instagram or anything like that. So, marketing was a big one. Trying to figure out taxes. Told a story the other day to somebody. Um, I'm ready to launch my website and I'm amped up, like I'm gonna sell my first dog stand. And like the night before, I'm like, taxes. And I'm like, I'm like, oh crap. So I had to figure out how to collect taxes and little stuff like that. Like if I sell a stand in Mississippi, do I
Mhm.
have to collect taxes? And how do I know how much to collect? And how do I integrate that with the website? So that was a big one. Running a company, like I was not a money guy. Like um, trying to set up an account and keep up with accounting. Um, and my wife helps, and my son helps with production stuff, and it's kind of a family business, but um, I do most of the stuff myself. So I had to self teach myself all of that. Like social media, somebody was like, "You need a TikTok," and I was like, "A TikTok? What? I don't even know what that is." Um, and now like TikTok is my number one advertising platform off of all of our social media. So,
Wow.
um, that kind of stuff, like, I don't know. I, it, from everything from production
Yeah,
to running a business to trying to figure out how to, um, stock up for next year. How much do we need? And
sure.
there's a million different things that were kind of hurdles for me because I didn't have that background.
Mhm.
So it's been really cool. It's been a cool experience. I've learned so much from all of it, and
That's cool.
been pretty humbling at times. Um, and you wake up one morning and feel like um, you're not doing what you need to be doing, and then the next day, some guy calls you from um, halfway across the country and tells you how great your product is and how it's changed the way he's able to hunt and um, makes you feel really good. So,
That's cool, man.
Definitely some ups and downs there.
Yeah, congrats. That is cool. What is one of the wildest stories you've heard or experienced as a guy in the industry now?
Like in the industry or itself, like,
Yeah.
man, I don't know. I guess to me, just the biggest thing is seeing guys like, and I didn't know who a lot of people were in the industry, but I guess seeing a guy that I saw on hunting shows as a kid,
Mhm.
and he walks up and knows who I am or knows what my product is, and um, I think those are probably the most surprising things that I still see today. Or the owner of a big company comes up and
Yeah,
tells me how much he loves my product, and I guess those are the things that really kind of you're like, is this real?
that's
Um,
cool.
being just a guy, like you said, that just wanted to be hunting. I was a kid that as a kid, I watched those hunting and fishing shows, and I thought, man, one day I'm gonna have a hunting and fishing show. Like
Yeah.
I thought that would be the coolest thing in the world to be Bill Dance or something like that. But um, just meeting guys like that, I guess, is probably the coolest thing.
Very good. Very good. Well, tell everybody where they can find you, your product, the TikTok, the Instagram, all that stuff, and where they can get their own dog stand.
Yeah. So most of our social media, Rixey, RIXEY underscore outdoors. That would be TikTok and Instagram, Facebook. Um, And so all of those, and we are direct to consumer only. So www.rixeyoutdoors.com. And that's the only place you can find stands now. Um, and we've done it that way, kind of keep our cost for our customers down as low as possible,
Mhm.
and be able to try to supply really good customer experience. And if you ever have any problems, let us know, and we obviously will take care of it. But those are pretty few and far between. So
That's awesome. Todd, I appreciate it very much, man. It's been enjoyable to get to know you. Enjoy sharing your story on the podcast. To everybody who tuned in, appreciate you week in and week out being a part of the show. And until next time, we'll catch you on the flip side.
thanks, Bob.
Thank you.